Oilers Live Podcast. Oilers Live Podcast.
Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here from Oilers Live with a special breaking news episode of Oilers Live. Well, it's not so breaking anymore. It's a little bit later in the day. I've got Megathread Mike Dirsa, Mary, as I like to call him, with me today. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, buddy.
Hey. All right. Well, big day closing in. Maybe by the time we're done the show, it'll be the last day of the year. And, of course, lots has happened in the world of the Oilers. And so you reached out to me today and asked if maybe we might be doing a podcast. So I think that's a great idea. And so here we are right now. Let's chat. I, to be fair, was out most of the day snowshoeing in the back country and K country, representing the Oilers with my beautiful orange Oilers toque. I haven't had a great chance to look at the trades yet. So why don't you fill me in on your thoughts and what's happened and thoughts for the day. I'm going to let you start this, kick us off here.
All right. Well, I did not expect this kind of deal that went down today. First thing in the morning, kind of dealt Weidman for Petrovic, 6'4", 216-pound, 26-year-old, career -3, 49 points in 254 NHL games with 5 goals and 44 assists, I believe. Former Red Deer Rebel, played with Nuge. So there's a bit of history there.
Yep.
Big kid. Probably a bit of an upgrade on the Garrison Weidman duo, I guess you'd call it. And then the bomb dropped. The one that really makes me shake my head. Yeah. Bringing in Brandon Manning for Drake Caggiula, Garrison, and a player that's playing in this, I guess, the Oilers now are loaning to the Swedish Hockey League, Robin Norell, an AHL player. Last year of his ELC, 5'11", 196-pound player that really I don't know much about because he hasn't played in the show yet, as far as I know. I think he's been a career AHL player. So, yeah. So now we're in a position where we've got, if my math is correct, 10 defensemen at the NHL level for 6 spots. So something else is going to happen here. And as was alluded to me, another trade basically has to happen because as soon as Sekera is cleared to play and comes off LTIR, then we're in a cap situation as well as a personnel situation. So the way I see it is once everyone is healthy, something's going to happen. And my spidey senses tell me it's going to be a blockbuster deal, and I'm going to hate it already. Pretty rare that an injured player gets dealt, so I don't think that means Chris Russell or and Russell's hard to move anyway, and I don't think it means Oscar Clefbaum. So that kind of leaves Gravel, Jones, Larson, or Nurse as tangible pieces going out the door. And really the idea of any of those guys leaving right now is the only guys that you can count on. So here we go. Buckle up, Oilers fans.
So if you had to guess, who do you think is going to go?
It's going to hurt me like a Ryan Smith deal did or well, the last guy is Smitty, but I think it's Nurse. And it's not going to make Mikey happy because I see people, they criticize Nurse and right now he's being put in a position that's probably above his caliber of play out of necessity because they don't have anybody else. And he's not coming out like a shining star, but I think we're asking too much of him. But the attributes of Darnell Nurse that I don't think anybody can argue with me on is the guy's durable. He doesn't miss a lot of hockey games. He's strong. He's fast. He can skate. He can clear the front of the net, which makes up for a lot of the smaller defensemen that he gets paired with deficiencies, other than Adam Larson. I think there's a lot of Oiler fans that want to clone basically Oscar Klefbom and have 6 of them on the blue line. It's great in one area, but it's bad in another. It takes more than being able to move the puck or make passes out of your end to play the game at a high level. You need guys that can do other things, and Darnell can do other things, and he's good at it. But the way I see it, he's probably the guy that's gonna be gone, and it's gonna be something that we're gonna look back on, like the Hall Larson thing. You're always gonna judge what you get back from a trade of Darnell, because he's, in my opinion, he's not a franchise player, but he's a cornerstone of your franchise. He's a guy that you know what you're gonna get. And it's going to be reliable. It's going to be consistent. You might not love it all the time. You might only like it part of the time, but you know what you're going to get. It's not a mystery with him.
Yeah, so you're right. You're right. When you look at the trades and you look at what happens when Sek comes back, and I haven't fully calculated yet, but I suspect you're right. It sounds like you've done the math. Cap issue. Nurse does seem the most likely to be gone. We're likely looking at, some type of a trade, or try to get a trade for a top 6 scoring guy, right? Offensive guy. We've got a number of D now. The trades in and of themselves, I think we can be. I think the hardest part, and I don't know. Maybe I was one of the few, but I kind of liked Kajula. I liked the way when he was playing, when he was on his game. I liked the way he played, but I'm not in any way upset to see Weidman and/or Garrison out the door. Petrovic is he's a local boy, right? So, of course, so was who's the guy we got from Anaheim that got basically booed out of town, went to Toronto, and is now sitting on IR for the rest of his life.
Joffrey Lupul.
Lupul, yeah. So was Lupul, a local boy. So, I'm always curious, though, how local guys play. Of course, we had, everybody knows Struds. Struds came and played. And I thought did a reasonably good job when he was with the Oilers. Nice to see a guy come home once in a while. Manning, I think if and so hard to take stuff off Twitter, but that's pretty much all I've been able to do today. We know the collarbone incident. You've got to think that, and maybe not. You've got to think though that. There was discussion about bringing him with Connor, right? Like you can't, and you've played on enough teams to know it doesn't matter what history you have with a guy. Once he's a teammate, it's a whole different story, right? Then you go to war with the guy. Is he a good teammate? I don't know. It does make you kind of wonder. What's your thought? I mean, so big thing was after the 5th game loss in a row, right? It was probably one of the darkest days for me as an Oilers fan since we've had McDavid. And it wasn't the manner that we've lost 5 in a row. We've had bad streaks in the past. In 12 years, we've had bad streaks. Everybody knows that. The fact was we were down 6-1 at one point. That's what made it so hard for me. Like it was, a couple nights before, 4-1, and then 6-1 at one point. It wasn't a 7-4 game. Let's be honest, right? After it's 6-1, it doesn't really matter what the score is anymore after that. The game's over, and nobody's playing the same. And so after that, I put out that tweet that, maybe it's time for a change and we need somebody to make some shrewd moves. Today, while I was out snowshoeing, I put out a video or made a video that didn't air until after the trades that we needed to do something to shore up the defense. I guess the question is this even close to shoring up the defense, right? Like, this is not anywhere near that. Sekera is not going to come back as being whole. Is this a lead up to something better? You don't see it that way because I think you're right. I think the more you look at this, the more it probably looks like Nurse is on the block. What's your thought overall? Let's put it out there. What's your thought overall on Chiarelli?
Okay, well, you brought up a lot there, so
I brought up.
I'll touch on a few of the things you kind of brought out. The understanding is Mark Spector tweeted out that Chiarelli went to Connor, and Connor said, "Make the deal." So you can take that a lot of different ways. Connor doesn't want to show up his GM and just says, "Okay, yeah, okay." Or Connor says, if you think it's going to help, do it. I don't really know the ins and outs of it. I wasn't in the room when that took place, but apparently it did take place. And I think you'd have to be a complete idiot, and I don't know where I am on that yet, but to bring in somebody like Brandon Manning into the Oilers locker room after what happened without any conversation with Connor, that would be, Russian roulette at its finest. I see this. I mentioned this to the Nation Dan on Twitter that the Chicago Bulls did a similar thing when they brought in Dennis Rodman, who basically mauled Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan all those years when he was playing for the Detroit Pistons. But Brandon Manning isn't Dennis Rodman. He's not the same caliber of player. We're talking about bringing in probably a sixth defenseman here. It's not, you're not bringing in a superstar that's going to help us that much, in my opinion. Is this an upgrade over Garrison and Weidman? I think that's where you're at with both of these moves today. So the move in the morning and then the move a few hours after, to me, is basically hedging your bet on the move on the morning to shore up your sixth defenseman. This isn't going to move the dial that much. No, it's not that big of a trade. Yeah, you took on some extra salary to move Jason Garrison. Do I like that? Not really. To me, it didn't really help anything. Like, how much further are we along now by doing these deals today than if we would have kept Brandon Davidson and Eric Greiba? I don't think we're that much further ahead here. Like, the thing that's made us probably better is Kevin Gravel's play and young Caleb Jones. I think that makes our D a little bit better once Oscar and Chris Russell are healthy. Other than that, this is not really anything to talk about other than, all the other moves that Chiarelli's made that I see the guy as short selling assets. My opinion on the Hall versus Hall Larson trade is I don't have any sadness that Taylor Hall won an MVP in New Jersey. Good for him. I'm happy for the guy. He's a great hockey player. That's fine. The organization decided to go in a different way. That's fine. They brought back a different defenseman that has helped this team. That's great. But in that trade, if you didn't get a second round pick, you lost the trade. Plain and simple. Larson is not, he's not Shea Weber. He's not PK Subban. He's not Drew Doughty. He's not Duncan Keith. So, you're gonna get rid of a guy that's your first overall pick and, somebody that you needed for a long time. And then you bring back a defenseman that isn't really, in my opinion, Adam Larson's a two defenseman or a number three. On a really good team, he's probably on your second pairing. On the Edmonton Oilers, he's got to be your first pairing. So that's where it is, in my opinion, on that. People want to go back to the whole Barzell thing, the Reinhardt thing. Well, GMs screw up based on speculation all the time. The Vegas Golden Knights took Griffin Reinhardt from us. Yeah. So yeah. To throw that all the time, I'll let that slide a little bit because that was a deal based on speculation. sometimes you're going to win those, sometimes you're going to lose those. But on the bigger trades, you know, like look at Eberle now. He's not lighting it up in New York by any stretch of the matter. But we brought in Ryan Strome, a serviceable, you know, third line center, and probably a better right winger if he's put on a line with some decent guys. The guy had a good shot, but he was streaky. He was hot and cold. So you deal him for a guy that was good in Boston, did nothing in New York in hopes that his career would reignite. Okay, but now there's rumors today that you tried to package him along with the other guys that you got rid of already. So, you know, we've went from Eberle down to zero in, you know, a matter of what, a year and a half. So it's just a continual decay of assets. But on Chiarelli's behalf, I'll give him credit. I mean, Koskinen, to me, that worked out, that panned out. He's already done enough to earn his $2.5 million that everybody's crying about, and it's a 1-year deal. The guy's played well enough. I hope he keeps going at a high level for the rest of the season, and that transaction works out to be worth double. You know, it didn't really cost us anything other than the $2.5 million. It was a gamble, I think, in my opinion, but it panned out.
Yeah,
we got good intel from what I've heard from Yari Curry on that one. It wasn't so much Chiarelli, but he made it happen. You know, Alex Chase on that $650K, that's worked out. You know, Kevin Gravel, that's worked out. Garrison, no. You know, so if you keep score of everything, yeah, he's had some successes, but it's been a majority of losses. And this job that he's in, unfortunately, you got to have more wins than you have losses. Otherwise, it's time to say goodbye. And, you know, I see more is going to come down the pipe here. It has to. His job's on the line, but also it has to happen to make room for Sekera to be taken off LTIR.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's the $1 million question, I guess, because is that going to be, you know, in January here, mid-January, end of January? But there's more trades coming.
Yeah.
And until he's out of the picture, he's the guy doing it. So I don't know what you're going to get, but today I tweeted out, I'm nervous as hell, because to me that there's got to be a transaction on the back end to make room for him, because you've got 10D that are basically at the NHL level. Who do you take out of that if you're just going to take somebody out? I guess you could send Caleb Jones down, but he doesn't deserve it. He's better than everybody you brought in. So what do you do here?
So first off, Oilers trades have got to be good for the podcast, because these are probably the most live listeners I've had across all of the platforms, including online radio, in a very long time. So everybody's looking for blood right now. And I mean, what you said, all of it's true. I mean, we, you know, obviously there is no doubt that Chiarelli's trade history is, well, it's awful. I'm of two minds. I see Loke is listening. He's commented on Periscope, and he's as big a fired Chiarelli guy as any. And as I've made known on here, I wasn't quite ready to say let's move him out. And there were a couple of reasons. One is, I think that, you know, regardless of what we've seen from a trade perspective, he's listened to people, the right people, when it comes to finding value or diamonds in the rough, right? Like in terms of building some of the prospects up, I feel. Now, that's all well and good, but I think where there's a couple things that I think, you know, have swayed me now, and I brought up Loke because as soon as I sent out a tweet, as I said earlier yesterday, about time for a change and maybe a new GM, and Loke sent me a message right away, and he said, welcome to the team, and here's my reasoning, and guys, and those people listening, I'm probably one of the more positive Oilers fans out there, and I'm not getting on the bandwagon and hashtagging Fire Chiarelli every day. I'm still going out, and I'm going to be listening and watching the Oilers and attending games and enjoying Oilers hockey. But here's what really kind of brought it home for me is earlier in the season, last season, if I had to look at what I thought was the biggest mistake that Chiarelli made, was Sekera was injured, and he thought that the defensive core that everyone in the world didn't think was good enough would be good enough. And he didn't make a move, right? He didn't make a move last year when Sekera got injured. He didn't even, as far as I know, he didn't even try to make a move. I mean, maybe he did. But, it quickly became clear throughout the season last year, going back to last year, that Sekera's injury hurt us a ton. And we didn't have the defense, we didn't have the horses to get us through that season and just rely on the offense that we did have. So that was number one. Earlier this season, when I started doing the podcast for season 2 of Oilers Live, and we talked, you were on some of them, Mike, and some of the other folks, and we talked about, this team going into the year. I had Eric Friesen on. I had a number of guys on, and we talked about who's going to do the scoring and who's going to do what. And at the time, Sekera was in the lineup, and then, of course, the Achilles happens, and he's out of the lineup again. And I said, at the time, this feels like deja vu, right? To quote Yogi Berra, it's deja vu all over again. And here we are again at the beginning of the season. Now we're, 38 games in. And we're down this path. We've known Sekera was going to be out for however long. And again, nothing has happened on the defense except to sign Jason Garrison and to pick up Chris Weidman. Two of the guys, and don't get me wrong on the trades today. Look, if any good came out of it today, it's those two getting the kick out the door, because honestly, if I saw them play another game in an Oilers uniform, I might have thrown up a little bit. But let's, if I want to say, like, what really threw me over the top is it's 6-1. But we still haven't done anything about Sekera being out. And not only is he going to be, he's coming back. Yeah, but he's not coming back as Sekera. He hasn't played hockey in 2 years, right? Like, he hasn't really played hockey in 2 years. And so, we've got 3 of our top 4 D-men injured. And the answer is what? Petrovic? I don't know. Whatever it is, this is why, today, if I'm Bob Nicholson, I'm saying to the Oilers fan base, I'm saying a number of things, but the first thing I'm going to say is, look, guys, we just haven't been good enough. And somebody's got to pay the price, right? And right now it's going to be Chiarelli, and I'm going to do it before, he, does anything more to this team in terms of trades or whatever. And the way I look at Chiarelli is this. I've always kind of considered him to be great in terms of building up a foundation for a team on prospects and everything like that. I think there's a good hockey strategy mind there. But what I don't see as a good thing for Chiarelli, and we've seen it in his signings, we've seen it in his trades, is the man, even though he's got a legal background, is probably one of the more piss-poor negotiators I've ever seen in my life. And so, if you're going to be a GM, look at what's the GM in San Jose? Wilson. Look at Wilson. Now, the one thing, if you listen to anybody talk about Wilson is a guy that, he's the guy they say could sell ice to an Eskimo, right? Like, he's the guy. That's the shrewd mover kind of guy that the Oilers need. A guy that can, make you think Garrison is the best player in the league, and you get back, whoever, not Petrovic or not, whatever. That's what we need. We need a guy that's a good negotiator, right? I think, look, I defended Chiarelli as long as I could, because I honestly, the foundation this team has is better than it's ever been. And when Chiarelli came in, one of the challenges we've had is we've had shit GMs in the Oilers organization for as far back as I can remember. And now it's time. Anyway, now it's time, and it's just about getting the right guy in, a guy that can sell this organization, a guy that, like Hitchcock is a coach, that kind of coach, that's a GM, right? A guy that can talk the talk, walk the walk, that everybody else in the league has some respect for, right? Except for maybe Garth Snow, right? Like, we just need a guy that finally understands what it means to negotiate a trade and the right time to do it. Look, I defended Chiarelli for a long time because I believe that the man can build the foundation for a good team, and he's done that. But where he's really fallen down is, acting swiftly and acting fast on the things that needed to be done. And I know there's going to be people out there, guys that I get on the show all the time, SPR and Kelly from Beer League Heroes, that, would probably, I think, still would be all right with keeping Chiarelli on.
Nope.
No? Okay.
Not Sean.
Not Sean? Okay.
No.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they finally come this way too. I'm finally at the point where, it's somebody you say something like this, and then finally people get on there and say, look, you can't fire your GM every 2 years. And that's not the reason to keep a GM, right? Like, you can't fire a coach every 2 years, but that's still not the reason to keep a bad coach, right? And that's the other part that I lost on was, there's no conviction. There was all this talk about being better, and we kept McClellan throughout the summer. In my mind, you got a team that everybody said was Stanley Cup bound last year, right? And
Yeah.
and if you're the GM, that's exactly what you want to hear. Right? Is all of the pundits saying your team is Stanley Cup bound. And if your coach doesn't get it done, well, then there's a problem. And there's seriously a problem there. And actually, at one point last year, I think we all believed it too. Remember the hashtag Oilers better? That only lasted, 10 games. But you know what? It was true. And Chiarelli and McClellan could never see eye to eye on roster moves. Now's the time. Anyway, you know what? I don't rant a lot. I typically leave that to the guests and everybody else and the people on Twitter. But I'm finally with you, Loke, and all you guys. I'd like to see a move happen. It's enough to defend this guy. But 5 in a row and the way we lost, the manner in which we lost. And, if I have to dig deep, it's not that I didn't see it coming, right? It's not that I didn't see a 6-1 game happening last night against San Jose. Like, it wasn't 6-1, but in my mind, that's what I saw was 6-1. And once I see that, that's when, the heart drops. It's hard to watch the game. And honestly, I hate missing Oilers games because you get to see things like Connor McDavid tapping the puck over a goalie's shoulder, right? And but I want to see that in the playoffs for a bit. Beer League Heroes, Kelly says, Manning coming in has the same feel as when Cassian was brought in. Kind of does, actually. I kind of never considered that little thing. Let's, Mike, let's open up the phone lines here. And I would love to hear. Loke, you got to call in tonight. I know you're on there listening. Let's hear what you have to say about about this and everything that's going on. And any of you that have a chance to call in tonight, you can call in. It's 587-907-5483. So that's 587-907-LIVE. This is the last live episode of the year. it's probably the one that, and this is me fired up, by the way. It's not that bad, but this is probably the one, where you guys need to call in. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm a year into this podcast, and I just want to, I've never in that year I've had a lot of hope. But I'm not seeing it. Now the only good thing today that really was good is that Garrison and Weidman, who I'm glad will never see, or I hope never see, another Oilers uniform again in their life, except if it's Lucic bearing down on them. Or never in the city again. Those two, I can't say enough about how much they drove me nuts. Bennings had good games. Garrison, I'm sure, is a hell of a leader. He must be, because that's the only reason I think he ended up on the team as far as he has. There is some people saying, and which I believe, is you got to wait and see, right? Like what these guys bring to the table, right? Like what is it that, and I said this earlier, Chiarelli does have some sense of talent, right? Or he's got the right guys working for him, right? There's been guys he's picked up that none of us, we questioned before. When it comes to big trades, let's just agree that, his track record's not been good in the talent department there. But when it comes to these ones and taking Spooner out of the equation, and I'm fine with that Spooner-Strome trade. I mean, it is what it is, right? When he made that trade, I thought it was a toss-up personally. Turns out we lost that one, but whatever. That's pure speculation. You think there's any hope for Manning and Petrovic? Oh, wait, we got somebody here. All right. We got Mr. Anderson on. All right, sir. What do you got? You're on the air.
When you put your dick in my butt, when you pull it out, it'll become all over your...
All right. That was interesting. That was very interesting. All right. So, Kelly, let's not have your kids call in anymore. I think I can probably edit that one. One time we had a caller in that talked about some like dead cat or something. That was hilarious. Chase, I think, did just prank call the show. Oh man. All right, so let's get some real callers in. I think I should have known better when I saw the phone number on there. Anyway, let's chat about this. I want to hear what some of you have to say. I know you're big on Chiarelli leaving, so let's hear what you have to say. And let's go back, Mike, to got another caller. Let's see if it's the same one. No, this one's a local number. All right, we've got it screening right now, and you know what? I need one of those things where I can do the delay and the little beep beep beep. Flatlander. All right, I've only talked to you on Twitter, but you are now on the air. Mike, how are you?
Nice to chat with you. Good to hear this. I just had a comment. You've probably seen a tweet or two about this, but my feelings are that this has to get serious. It should have got serious last year. When you have a generational player, you need generational veterans to join him and make him succeed, and we have seen none of that.
So if now you're right, and it's funny because last year we thought the problem might be veterans as well. We lost Hendricks, right?
Right.
Granted, he was a fourth liner, but he was one of those guys like Horkoff in his best years, right? That I'll always remember Hendricks Cup there taking the puck off the off the cup and seeing it all twisted, and I thought, man, that guy
Yes.
that guy's a trooper. Who in the league, if there was a vet that you could get, maybe one that's, I know Versteeg is working the media box right now. Is there somebody out there that you think the Oilers could go after from a veteran side that would actually do something? And Mike, you're welcome. Dirsa, you're welcome to respond as well. But Mr. Flatlander, what do you think? Anybody that comes to mind?
I don't know about it looking forward. I think looking back, I just have been baffled that some big names get traded at the trade deadline and then again through the summer. And why aren't we in the running? What aren't we doing? I think what you said is true. Maybe he's not the best negotiator, but Tavares, why weren't we even on his radar?
Yeah, I've got to think that for Tavares, in terms of the Tavares situation, I just don't think Edmonton's in the running. One of the things that I've always felt we have problems as a team is when stuff like this happens, Oilers fans get into a tizzy, and the bloodlust is unbelievable. And
Yes.
Lucic saw it last year. Players see it every year. Lupul, we brought him up. Lupul saw it. Guys, if you've ever listened to the Spitting Chicklets podcast, which if you've talked about a wrench any time in your life, that's about the first half hour of that podcast. So I'll just get that out of the way. You skip through the first 30 minutes, you might get some content. And anyway, you get guys that come in here, and if they have a couple bad games in a row, we're probably one of the more passionate fan bases in the league. If among all the fan bases, and sometimes I think the fans are the problem. The media is certainly the problem as well, right? I mean, we'll run anybody out of town if you kind of piss us off. So I just think a guy like Tavares, if you're going to get that kind of shit, might as well go home and get that, where you can wear your pajamas, your Maple Leafs pajamas, and do that. I just don't think.
Okay, one more name.
Yeah.
One more name. Kovalchuk, when he came in from the KHL.
Oh.
Why weren't we in the running?
Yeah, I'd heard some rumors that we had talked to him.
He's not thriving where he's at.
Yeah, I guess the question, if it's Chiarelli, then I would suggest it's probably not likely that he's going to make a move on Kovalchuk. There's too much risk, and right now, I'm not sure that's the kind of trade he wants to make or a move he wants to make. I kind of, when he was made available initially, kind of wondered whether or not he would be worthwhile, but I there were too many unknowns there, and I think I'm not a little bit surprised by that. Dirsa, I see you kind of sighing a little bit.
May
What's your
not
thought?
have the skills he used to have, but if he brings something to the team that Ryan Smith used to have for us, we're going to succeed.
Yeah, we could certainly use another Ryan Smith type of player. Dirsa, any thoughts on anybody out there that, or do you think we need a veteran?
Well, I saw something Wood Guy put out earlier, and if you took the money that you spent for the Greiba and Pouliot buyouts, $1.63 million, and you had that, and you didn't have to pay Ryan Spooner $3.1 million, Brendan Manning $2.5 million, Kyle Brodziak $1 million, $1.5 million, and Lucic is $6 million. You could offer sheet Austin Matthews right now, because you'd have $14.4 million in cap.
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
But it is what it is, right? We've got what we've got. I guess the question is, and Mike Flatlander, you bring up some good points, right? Who is it that we can bring in, right? Who's going to come in now, and who can we afford to bring in now? when I talked about making a move and shrewd moves, right? Like, who can actually come in and do anything with this cap space right now? Are we stuck with what we've got this year, or is this? And if that's the case, what's the is there harm in just riding the season out how it is? Hopefully, he doesn't. I hesitate to say that. I take that back, guys. I can strike that from the recording episode here.
I won't stay on, but
yeah,
I won't keep on the line. But I'll just say it with this comment that when you're told we're going to see bold moves, we've yet to see that. So we're waiting.
Fair. You know what? Very good point. All right. Thanks for calling in.
Well, thank you, and have a good night.
Yeah.
You bet. Bye.
All right. That was Flatlander, who you can find him on Twitter at Flatlander. I think he goes by at Plaxter, Plaqster. So if you want another follow, that's a good guy to follow. He thinks we should get a veteran. If you want to call in and you want to air your grievances or talk about who we should get, please do 587-907-5483. I've heard Perron's name or saw it in the chat. Kreider, and then Zachary Week says, "Why would they trade Drake?" What's your thought on that, Mike? I mean, I like I said earlier, I think I might be one of the few that really like Drake Caggiula. I thought when he was on his game, and I think he was getting a little bit more consistent as the year went on. I actually like that kind of guy. I just, I don't think we had enough players that I think he's put in a bad role. Right? Your thoughts?
I don't think it really had much to do with Drake Caggiula, the hockey player for the Edmonton Oilers. I think it had more to do with fitting in the dollars for the Chicago Blackhawks. And you kind of alluded to the negotiation skills of our fearless leader right now. And I think that's another strike. We don't have any secondary scoring. Drake brought a little bit, not a lot. And out he goes. People try to cushion that by saying he's not a Hitchcock type player. Well, you're not giving Hitchcock really anything up front, so I'm not believing that. I think that's just a kind of a casualty of war and another strike against the GM. That's my opinion on that. And as for not making any bold moves, well, I think bringing in Brandon Manning, the guy that hurt Connor, is a bit of a bold move. I'm not so worried about the fact that he injured Connor. When guys fight, usually that ends pretty quickly. So I think they'll be fine together. For me, the whole question of Brandon Manning is, does he make us really any better? And the jury's out. I don't know.
I'll tell you this. This to me, where these trades fall down is in the dollars, right? Like, as you said, does it make us any better? I don't think it makes us any worse. Although giving up Drake to me is maybe a sore spot for me, because as I've said, when he was on his game, I loved watching that kid play. Right, like he's not a big guy, but he's going out there and he's hitting big guys, and he's just kind of like a little pinball around the ice when he's playing well. That kind of, to me, kind of bothered me a little bit. I'm not. It would be nice to have a roster where Caggiula is a guy that you don't need every night, but where he's kind of the guy. Maybe you can sit halftime and bring him in halftime. But on this roster, we need him every night, and so that kind of hurts a little bit. I think, as I keep saying, seeing Garrison and Weidman out and getting Manning and Petrovic in, is at least a bit of a step up for me. It's not. What's your thought? We haven't talked about it yet. Gambardella gets the call up. Thought on that?
Yeah, I was like, Stauffer tweeted out lines from practice this morning, and it was Draisaitl, McDavid, Ratty, Kajula, RNH, Puliarvi, Lucic, Kara, Yamamoto, Ryder, Brodziak, Cassian, Nurse Larson, Gravel, Weidman, Jones, Benning, and Talbot was in that, I guess. Obviously, Kajula comes out, so somebody needs to slot in there, and Weidman comes out. Somebody needs to slot in there, and I'm not sure Talbot's going to start tomorrow. I don't know. To me, in the last game, Talbot wasn't bad, but that one goal that was a San Jose shorty. He went out to play the puck there. I don't mind that. I don't have a problem with that. But then he nonchalantly skated back into the net like he had all day. A little bit of power play arrogance, I think, on his behalf, and puck ends up in the net. And it didn't matter at that point, but still, that's, to me, it wasn't an NHL goalie trying to get back in his net to, do his job. I didn't like that. So to me, I would go back to Koskinen tomorrow. Yeah. And so what do you do tomorrow with the lines? Yeah, you've called up a kid, and you had Ryan Spooner kind of as the extra forward today. So, does Lucic play with RNH and Puliarvi? What goes on here? That's my question. I guess we'll see tomorrow.
Yeah. So, what did you think? I did see the one lineup tweeted out earlier about having Kara on with McDavid. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know. McDavid needs somebody to pass to that can finish. I'm not sure Jujar's that guy, but Jujar is probably the guy that can keep pucks alive and, play hard, be physical. He can skate. So, it's not the plague for me or anything, but when you look at that lineup, yeah, it's good to have all three centers playing center, but you don't really have a line that screams at me, wow, that's dominant. It's, they need some help, and it's going to come. My question is, at what cost? What goes on? And to me, like, it's the cuts are like the players that are going out are going to hurt, and the players that come back better be just as good, if not better, than what we're shipping out. Otherwise, we're no further ahead. You might as well play the wait and see game. Yeah, and I get the fire Chiarelli hashtag. I get it. Believe me. I just don't know if it serves any purpose. Yeah, okay. I think at some point there's recognition on the behalf of the organization that, okay, maybe our fans aren't happy here. But I think they get it. I think they want results just as badly as we do. From things I've heard, Kate's kind of came in and said, okay, we got to get rid of this guy. We got to get a different coach, and we'll start there. And I think that's where it's at. All professional sports organizations, usually the GM gets two coaches. Well, Chiarelli's on number 2. It's do or die. That makes me even more nervous because he's going to be in panic mode, and I haven't really been a fan of everything he's done or most of what he's done when he's not in panic mode. So, yeah, that makes me nervous as an Oiler fan.
So what's your, we've talked about, everything that's wrong with the team, and to me, this is where I've been sort of late on this, let Chiarelli go bandwagon,
right?
And it's, prior to Clefbaum being injured, this team actually was performing quite well defensively. I would say offensively, we still were in need, but defensively, they were doing all right. Koskinen was making the saves he needed to make, but the team was doing well. And then, Clefbaum gets injured, Russell's injured, and
right.
I think that, take the top 3 of 5 defense on any team in the league, and they're going to have some real pains. And that's why I say the one reason I keep going back to is, 2 years in a row, we knew Sekera was out long-term, and we did nothing, right? We hoped that the team would perform without Sekera in the lineup. And to me, hope is a piss-poor way to run a team, right? because hope only gets you so far. And and so I was kind of always a little bit pissed at the fact that nothing was done twice now. When it was clear last year that the problem was on defense, and it's clear this year the problem is on defense, and it's just exaggerated by the fact that Clefbaum was out and Russell was out, right? Like it just made us all that much more aware. I'm not gonna blow smoke up anybody's ass and tell you that I thought we had a great defense, but we had Calgary in our barn and we held them off the score sheet. Right. And as much as it pains me, they've got a hell of an offensive team there this year, right? Yeah, and we played a good game. We played a Hitchcock type of game with the players that we had. Now, I think what we're seeing is, Hitchcock's got the last 5 games. He's got a whole new roster. He's got a different roster than the one that he came in with, right? And we're going to see changes. Like he's got to, he knows now that the defense just isn't good enough. So he's got to find offense out of this team, right? So we got to put a blender to those lines. We have to, if before we could win 1-0, 2-1 games, that's clearly not going to happen over the next little while, right? I mean, we're spotting teams 4 goals, 5 goals in the last 5 games, right? That's our goals against average the last 5. There's 5 goals against. And so either he finds a way to score 6, right? And hopefully maybe that's having 3 centers, right? RNH, Draisaitl, and McDavid, or whatever it is. But Hitchcock's, he's a smart guy. He knows what he has. He's got to figure out what to do next. And so, this is a scary time for us as we go play, one of the top teams in the league. In fact, I think, the top team in the West. I think Calgary's got a good offensive team, but I think, I watched the Winnipeg-Calgary game the other day that Calgary won. I'd say Rittich kind of held Calgary into that game. And so, I'd tell you that Winnipeg is the better team. And it's a scary proposition, us going in, I guess we're at Rogers Place playing against, top team in the West. 6 in a row, and I don't know if I want to handle it. I hate the thought of that. But if we don't go down, 4 goals at any given point, yeah. I don't know. If you had to suspect, when would you think that this big trade will go down?
Well, you might have accidentally stumbled across something there and not even known it. Like maybe the Hitch's idea of separating, McDavid, Draisaitl, Nuge, and putting them all on their own lines wasn't to create offense. Maybe it was to create more defense. And get back into the 2-1, 1-0 kind of games. I don't have a problem with that as long as we're winning hockey games. That's kind of my attitude. And maybe what everybody needs to do to come back to center, to coin a yoga phrase, is to come back to McDavid. That's the peace, that's the calm, and that's the thing that should settle everybody down. We've got the Messiah. Okay, we need to start surrounding him with some apostles, and let's get going. It's time. It's time for Oiler fans to have something to smile about again. We made it to the playoffs. We made it to the second round. We did okay. Last year, we fell on our face. Last year, by November, I grew apathetic. I was checking out. Ran the Megathread all the time, and people made me laugh and kept me engaged. But I probably wouldn't have watched, about 50 hockey games last year after we lost 3 games. I think it was 5-0, 3 games in a row straight at home. That's the time when McClellan probably should have went. We've got Hitchcock now. I like him as a coach. I hope whatever the hell shakes down here with our general manager and this team, that he is our coach going forward, because I like him. I never thought I'd like a coach of the Dallas Stars ever, or anybody from the Dallas organization. Yeah. But here I am. I like this guy. I like what he has to say. He brings he brings an honest answer when you ask him a question. It's not token, just throw it out there cliches. He's engaged with pretty much everybody he interacts with, from Ryan Rishaug to Mark Spector to, Joe the fan, I'm sure. And I'm sure he's the same with his players. They said McClellan was a player's coach. Well, I think Hitch blows that out of the water. I think, when you ask him a question, he gives you an answer. You may not like it, but he gives it to you. It's not just filler. He wants to have Puljujärvi. He wants to have Yamamoto here. He wants to work with those guys. McClellan wanted to cast those guys aside.
Yeah.
In the 90s in Detroit, they would have guys like Yamamoto and Puljujärvi down on their farm system because they could. Edmonton doesn't have that luxury. They need anybody that can add anything, and they're here. And I think they got the right guy in place to bring them along. I really believe that. I think Ken is a great coach, and I've only really seen him up close for the last couple weeks here, and I think he's the best that we've had for a long time. I really believe that. And finally, we've got a coach that has a Stanley Cup on his resume. I think that's huge, and I want him to be here. I want him to guide this team. Hitch hockey, well, it's hockey that makes sense. It isn't this defensive, Tampa Bay Lightning, Guy Boucher, everybody back, and that's it. I think it's attack when you're in the right position to attack, pull back when you don't have that, and on offense, once you get the puck, try to get it in that end and score a goal. Yeah. It's pretty simple. It's not remaking the wheel here or anything, but it just makes sense. And I'm on board with that. And I want to see success, but if this losing streak keeps going, I don't think that means the end of Chiarelli yet, but once the playoffs become a distant memory, why save him? Let it go. If we're in the fight and it's there, then I don't think they axe him. I think this is just the nature of the beast, and it'll play itself out.
Yeah, we could talk about this all night, but I think it's time. It's definitely time for a change, and I have a suspicion that it's coming. These are the last gasps of a dying GM. If maybe he can pull something off. My hope is that whatever it is, whatever comes in the next couple days or weeks, doesn't change this team for the worse. And something
else has got to drop, Mike. It has to, because Sekera is almost there, right? And once they take him off LTIR, then they have to make a move to be able to bring him in. So I don't know what that means, but that means something. And I'm nervous about that because I really like Darnell Nurse. I won't hide that. To me, I see just a very, very athletic, gifted guy that during the course of his career, I'm not sure that he'll miss 100 games, and I don't want to jinx him by any means, but
yeah,
you know what I mean? He's just a durable, athletic, gifted athlete, and he comes from a very athletic family, and I think that's somebody that you want on your organization. I don't think he's a top pairing guy. I'm not sure he'll ever be.
Yeah,
but I don't think that matters. It's Tom Brady's not the most athletically gifted guy, but he's won a lot of rings. He's it frustrates me to think of him being the one to go, but I think it's a real possibility.
Yeah, look, before you got on, I had some discussions with some other people, and that was kind of our general consensus anyway, was a move's going to be made, and it's probably going to be Nurse, and it's probably going to be, an attempt to get somebody that can slot into that top six role as a scoring guy. I don't know who's available, and I always, I'll always ask people, if if you think that a move needs to be made and there's somebody there and people on Twitter and everywhere and I've done it and you've done it, we all say, well, what about so and so for so and so? That guy's got to be available and that team's got to want what we're giving, right? Like there's a lot of great trades that are suggested out there.
Sure.
9 out of 10 times isn't. If you're a fan of a team and you suggest a trade, that's because the trade's going to be one-sided, right?
Yeah.
Like I would love to trade Lucic for anybody. It's going to be one-sided if you're taking on, unless if we take most of that contract, it's a one-sided trade. And so, I guess at the end of the day, we still have the biggest problem that we have is we've got a cap crunch that's not going to get any better. We've got a team that's doesn't know what its true identity is yet. And we don't have enough proven horses to trade up with right now, right? I think when we go back to your comment earlier as to why Kajula, right, is because that's what was required. And we have a guy that's not a great negotiator, right? Like Kajula, I would have loved to see Kajula moved for, with, I don't know who, but Kajula and somebody moved for somebody that's a little bit more palatable, right? Like
Right.
if you're, somebody who, right, either really shores up this defense or really, proves to be good secondary scoring on this team. We didn't see any of that. What we did see, though, was, the only positive, as I keep going back to, is no more Garrison, no more Weidman,
Right.
and these guys aren't going to be any worse. And
That needed to happen, Mike.
Yeah.
Those two needed to go. I don't know if the cost of Drake Kajula along with that needed to happen, but we'll find out if this gains us any tangible traction. This doesn't move the dial a lot, and there's something else going to drop. You either, I see two things, and this is probably going to scare Oiler fans, and I don't mean to do that, but I like to deal with reality. And it's either Nurse or Nuge, because you have to have the money to be able to get Sekera back, and it has to happen. I don't think you can delay this, the whole year. And maybe the one thing about Peter Chiarelli right now that is going to be Oiler fans' savings grace is the guy is basically handicapped himself. There's not a lot he can do, but there is those two possibilities, and it makes me nervous. Lucic for me, I think that's a non-starter. You're definitely not trading him for one player in a 1-for-1 transaction, and even if you retain 50% of his salary, I still don't think anybody takes that deal unless they're sending you something that they really don't want in return. Brent Seabrook for Lucic kind of thing. Do you experiment with that? I don't know. And the one thing that I heard out there was, Lucic plus a first plus retaining 50% of his salary. I don't part with a first round pick if I'm the GM. Does Chiarelli? I don't know. He wouldn't be the guy to make that move, because to me that's an indictment that he on himself that.
I'm not okay. When we're bringing up first round picks, if we're in a playoff spot, I'm fine with that, right?
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it ever right now.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I wouldn't do it now.
I'm
I
scared.
wouldn't do it now because who knows? We've got a great record, or one good record is winning draft lotteries, and so I'm not going to give up that first round if we're not making the playoffs. Whatever it takes, though, in my mind, actually, keeping Luch, either way, if you eat half of his salary, you still hurts you. If you keep him on the team, it hurts you. You buy him out, it hurts you.
Right.
The only real, good thing is I do feel like, he is a presence that people are legit scared of Lucic. I mean, I've heard players talk about it, and if you were to go after McDavid and you had to deal with Lucic, I'd be scared out of my mind. And this is a different league. Do we need protectors anymore? I don't know, but I think Lucic does play that role a touch, so that's half decent. But in my mind, if your best bet is sit him, right? Don't play him. I know, but we're hurt either way, right? Like if you don't play him this year and then you buy him out in the off season, then you're still paying, whatever, $3 to $4 million a year, which you're going to pay on a trade anyway. And I don't know that you're going to get anything worthy back in return without, selling the farm. So, sit him and play him in those games where you need him to send a message to somebody like, whoever, if Kessler was out there, right? That kind of a player, right? Or a Kachuk or somebody. And where his only role that game is to come in and really show those guys who he is, right? And then to me, by playing him night after night, right? Like the message that they send to the rest of the team is the wrong message. And I just don't think, we've talked about Lucic. The more I think about it, the more I think there's nothing you're going to get in return that's worthy of it, because you'll have to give up too much in order to get him out. And so you might as well just wait the season out and pay him out, and then go that route.
You know what, Mike? I don't think buying him out is really a good idea either. It just costs so much.
You're going to pay I think $4 million a season after.
I don't want to step on at all.
You pay $4 million, I think, is what it works out to be if you buy him out next year.
Yeah, I looked at the whole contract over the whole time period, and it just you don't really gain anything. You might as well keep him as your fourth line. I hate to say it, but your fourth line dud, and that's it. I don't know. You can't consider to me, if he's in a fourth line role, I don't know if there's anybody better than Milan Lucic as your fourth line, checker. And I'm okay with that. But the problem with it is a $6 million fourth line checker. But it is what it is. I mean, it's an albatross, but I don't see a way out of it that actually helps or propels you anywhere forward. It's just, you've got that combined with everything else that's been done, and it's too much. And, how do you get out of it? I don't think you do. I think you just swallow that and deal with it.
Yeah. The whole Lucic thing just, I don't like to saddle Chiarelli with that. I mean, $6 million was way too much, and the way he organized that contract was way too much too, right? There was no way out of it.
Well,
but, who
I
saw
don't think
the
it really
drop
matters,
off,
Mike.
right?
What the number is now? He's went from probably about a $4 million player. That probably would have been fair at the time.
Yeah. But
now he's not worth Alex Chase on money. This is league minimum.
Not even close.
It's it's so hard, and you can't fault that. I know people want to, but you can't put that 100% on Chiarelli. Nobody knew that he was going to fall off a complete cliff, head smashed in, buffalo jump and die at the end. Nobody knew that.
That's quite the quite the
but it's true.
He did, yes, he did fall off a cliff. I don't know. Is there anybody? I guess. Well, they're dealing with the same thing in Calgary with Neil, but he's got 3 times as many goals as Luch does in 2 seasons. So
when you're counting 3 goals as a victory, I think we'll look to Milan Lucic's hit total and we'll call him a winner on that front. But there's still losses, man. It's huge. You've cashed in all your chips. You've sold the house and the Porsche, and you're still at the table trying to win.
What do you think if at some point, if McClellan had woken up at some point last year early enough in the season to realize what most of us saw early, which was Lucic slowing McDavid down, like to play dying on Lucic's stick. How different is our lives as Oilers fans, today? Like if he had demoted him to the third line or fourth line early season last year when it became clear that this was not the same player anymore. Is this team different? Because to me, that was probably one of the single biggest mistakes McClellan made as a coach. And probably the one that got him fired was putting Lucic on against Calgary, the first game of the season this year, in 2-3 minutes left in the game. Yeah. I just don't get it. I mean, that changes our lives as Oilers fans. I think if you had recognized at least that this was a guy that should never take place or never step foot on a first or a second line after 2 years ago. I mean, he was the first year in, he showed well. Mentally, though, something happened with that guy.
Yeah, well, it's hearsay, but problems at home might have led to problems on the ice. I don't know. To me, that's kind of irrelevant. He just, you're a professional hockey player. You're paid to play hockey. You're paid to perform. Once you stop doing that, then things need to happen. Things need to adjust. You give him the benefit of the doubt for a while, but a while became a while and a while and a while, and it was too long in that Calgary game this year. Kind of a Glenn Sather type move to put Lucic out with Connor to make sure the shenanigans come to an end. That's fine. You have a lead at that point. You're in good position. Okay, I don't mind that. The game becomes a hockey game again, and the shenanigans kind of stop because Calgary's focused on winning the game. Edmonton's still focused on settling scores and policing. You checked yourself out of the game. You basically put a Hummer out with Lamborghinis and expected him to keep up. That's not really fair to Lucic, but and it's not fair to Connor. That probably was the last straw, or maybe just the loss to Calgary in a Battle of Alberta game that you had control of and you lost it. And I think that Daryl Cates, I think for the most part, he's the type of owner that you want, kind of the guy that pays the bills and lets the hockey people worry about the hockey stuff. A lot of professional sports, you get somebody that has never played the game and they want to make all the decisions for the game. I don't think that's the way to run your organization, but from what I've been told, Daryl wasn't very happy and he wanted Todd gone. He wants this team to turn the corner, become a playoff team. People need to realize that pretty much for every Oiler home game in the playoffs, it's extra revenue for Daryl that he doesn't get if they're not playing. The building can sell other things, but Oiler hockey is what he wants to see come April, May, June, along with everybody else. So I don't fault Daryl Cates. People want to rag on him. Without him, this team is probably somewhere else. It's nice to have an owner that, or as of right now anyway, I'm not worried about him having to sell Connor McDavid to keep the franchise going. Which people that are my age will know happened once upon a time.
That's freaking old, Mike.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not. I could care less about Cates, to be honest with you. Whether I think he, has done a half decent job of staying out of it, except to maybe have his kids on stage at the draft.
Right.
Which, I respect. I mean, there's,
oh yeah.
I think though at some point, right, like maybe he needs to step in and say, look, this is this is not the way that I'm not paying you guys for a losing squad, right? And I think he's probably
I've
getting a
heard
little
recently
bit
he
tired,
comes in pretty hot.
Yeah, and that doesn't that doesn't surprise me, right? I mean, he's been a CEO and president for a very long time, and they demand that you get things done, right? And so. I imagine he's probably getting a little hot under the collar right now, and we're just another year with Connor McDavid, and still nothing to really show for it. I think if and I'd love to. By the way, the lines are still open: 587-907-5483. If you're not gonna call and talk dirty to us, talk at least some hockey. So we'd love to hear from you. That's 587-907-5483. Been a lot of action on all of the platforms in terms of chat and everything going on, and it's been great to see all of the different folks out there and see all the conversation. This is maybe fifth loss in a row, and this is the most united I've seen Oilers fans in a very long time. And they have one common cause. And I've seen a couple people say, well, what are you going to do? Well, I think we all agree there's not a lot we can do right now as a team, given the cap crunch that we're in. But most people are on the fence now that significant change needs to be made. And so, I think people are ready for that change. The one thing, though, that has been interesting is some of the, I'm just going to come out and say it, more idiotic comments about like trading McDavid. And
yeah.
And also, I don't think we're anywhere near McDavid asking for a trade yet. That's not to say it may never happen. I'm not going to say that, but we're not there yet, right? And so if you think we are, I don't know what to tell you. Zachary Weeks just said he's a class player. Won't ask, or no, sorry. This is a reply. R.A. Kramer 79 says he is a class player. Won't ask for a trade, but won't re-sign. And I think that's the more likely thing. Is the one thing, when we go and we start talking that McDavid's going to ask for a trade, we've got to realize that, you're questioning this kid's credibility, right? And McDavid, if anything, has been good to Oilers fans.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like the guy is, I still can't believe he's a kid. Right, and you listen to him talk. He's well ahead of his years, but I just don't think that's in his character to ask for a trade. I'm not saying it won't happen. Could be wrong. A couple more years of this, and maybe he will. Maybe his mom and dad will have a conversation with him and say, like, look, son, maybe it's time you start looking after yourself. But I think that he's a good kid. He's going to honor that contract, and don't bring up shit about trading McDavid. I mean, that's about the most ridiculous thing I've heard.
We're far from that, Mike. Yeah, that's right now that's ludicrous. But athletes are human, and Connor's a guy that's used to winning a lot of hockey games. So, losing can wear on you. So the ship needs to be righted, for his sake, it's a business.
Yeah.
And, this is a results-based business. Sometimes I kind of personally think that, it should be my and yours generation that, kind of has a spoiled brat mentality because, we saw Wayne, we saw Yari, we saw the legends, and we saw them win and win often. And then years of nothingness, right? So you think it should be us that want to abandon ship and, light the city on fire and all that. And I kind of find for the most part it isn't. We've been given this gift, okay, and he's got some pieces around him. It's not all doom and gloom. Come back to center, come back to McDavid, take some deep breaths. Leon's a pretty good player. There's a few good players on the back end. Nuge is a good player. There's some pieces here. There needs to be a little bit of surrounding around that. You need to package up a couple of these guys that aren't doing anything all as one, ship them out of here, and get, a 10 to 12 goal scorer. Start with something that you can actually accomplish here. Clefbaum's going to get healthy, but that's not going to be till February. So they need to be able to gain a little bit of ground here and stay there, until then. The moves that were made today are I don't think they really moved the dial that much. So it's not some miracle that happened on the back end, but it wasn't the end of the world losing Drake Caggiula. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like I say, there's something else that's got to drop to make room for Reggie, and that has to, in my opinion, happen probably within the next 2 weeks to the next month. So something else is going to happen. Is Chiarelli going to be the guy to do it? I sort of think so, unless we just completely bomb the next few games here. To me, you're on the end of you're on your fourth game of a losing streak to come down and almost be down by a touchdown. It don't look good. And to me, they kind of fell apart after that game became 1-1. They stopped playing the Hitchcock style of defensive hockey. Like they were playing sound defensive hockey, on their winning streak, and they got away from that on their losing streak. Is it fully because we lost, Russell and Clefbaum? I don't think so. I think some people just kind of abandoned what they were doing right before.
Yeah. It's not all on injuries, right? You can't lose 5 in a row and just blame injuries, right? These guys are, they're pros. They're supposed to, they made it this far because they're supposed to win hockey games. And they get paid good money, right? And 5 in a row just, really isn't acceptable on anybody's standards. And you got to find a way through that. You got to find a way through all of those injuries. So we can't blame it all on injuries. It's, it's a sad state. I want to sort of close it down here shortly. We're at 11:35. Been on over an hour now. And so if anybody wants to call in, now's the time. 587-907-5483. One of the things that it's funny. We've got this great facility, Rogers Place. And we've got, a team with unbelievable history, the best player in the league. We've got so much out there. Would it hurt this organization to put some money into getting something exciting like at a game? Like the atmosphere at Rogers Place, I love the building. But, if I go to the Dome to watch every Battle of Alberta game, and there's more atmosphere in the old Saddle Dome than there is in Rogers Place. And it's not about the fans, because I'll tell you what, Oilers fans are great, and they're the most passionate in the world. And we've got great Twitter fans, too. Would it hurt this team to get somebody who's good at organizing, like, a Twitter account? I know the guy in Las Vegas screwed up a couple of, last year or whatever and got moved out. But couldn't we get a guy that could interact with the fans and get us pumped up for a little while, get us into a frenzy and positive about things? I'll be honest. One of the things that if I go to a Flames game, is when that team scores, the whole building gets jazzed, right? Like it's like, it's like a party in there. And when I'm at Rogers Place, and I've been there more often than anywhere, and the Oilers score, yeah, we got a piss poor goal song. Whoever came up with that. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. I miss the old guy from Rexall, the guy that used to do the announcing. And Oilers Pride 80 says atmosphere would be better if the team could win. But, this is all part of the package, right? Like, this is part of being a fan and part of, like, doing something. We got to, like, it just drives me nuts. That if there's one thing we could change too, right? Like that's it. Like get this team, like get the fans, riled up. Remember what the year? Yeah, everybody remembers when we went to the finals with Pronger and with Pekka, and they made those signings and they had a rally, right?
Right.
It was unbelievable. It was awesome, right?
Yeah.
It was, we'd had how many years of mediocrity then, but it was actually fun going to Rexall or to wherever and whatever it was called at any given year, Skyreach or the Coliseum or whatever.
Yeah.
It was fun going there because, the announcer was good to listen to, the goal song was good to listen to, and I can't help but think that. Rogers Place has the potential and the capability, and I love the fact that they got the marching band going around and stuff. But let's let loose a little bit. Like if you're not going to put a decent product on the ice, put a decent product off the ice to get some excitement going. And somebody said their Vegas does it right. Yeah, like Vegas does do it right. Now's the time. Like if you gotta maybe get some excitement around the team. I don't know. Hold a couple rallies. Do something. Get a better Twitter guy, for God's sake. And
he's in Okotoks.
Is he? Yeah. He probably is. Damn it!
I suck at picking. That's the guy. Bring him in. Come on, we all know it.
Yeah. Like I don't care who it is. Really, just somebody like get a social media team, and I hope you guys are listening, right? Because like we need to be better at everything with this organization, and now's the time, right? Like we've got Connor McDavid. Honestly, the one saving thing about me, like that for me after the last game, was the little chip over the shoulder. Like, honestly,
Flash of brilliance.
Yeah, the kid is unbelievable. And we couldn't be any luckier. Oh, I've got a couple calls. Look at that. All right.
Perfect.
Apparently something I said. All right. Let's get. Is this Mr. Friesen?
You got it, buddy. How's it going?
Good.
Mike?
Good. My screener says Eric Freezing Whalers. I have no idea what that. Man. All right.
It's not bad resting.
I know. The screener's got to be fired. What? So for those of you that are listening, Eric is, and sorry, I've got one other caller waiting on hold. We're going to get Eric on here or there, and then we'll get the other caller on.
Long distance here, so I just thought I'd quickly chime in.
Yeah, and so Eric, by the way, is a regular guest, as he told me. We recorded a pod yesterday, which I'll release in the next couple of days. He's been on 6 times already, so clearly he's doing better than I am because I'm not sure I've been on 6 times yet. So what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on the trade today? Trades.
Man, I heard about it while I was driving from Saskatoon to Edmonton. I was a little shocked, actually. As soon as Spector said on Twitter that the Oilers were looking to make another move, I was just like, man, this is scaring me. And I don't want to see Nugent Hopkins' name anywhere on Twitter.
Yeah. I think there a lot of us were scared of RNH going. I was in the mountains. I couldn't get any service. I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, I saw you up in. I'm probably going to butcher the name, Canassus.
Yeah, you butchered it.
Close.
So
I was-
Eric's a Saskatchewan boy, and so Kananaskis. But yeah, no, it was beautiful up there. Weather was great.
keep in mind, I'm still one of those people that's like awestruck when I see a mountain. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter like if I'm in my late 20s or not. Like I didn't grow up with them, so every time I'm seeing them, I'm like, wow, we don't have those where I'm from.
Well, I'll have to get you. Eric and I are going to the Battle of Alberta game April 6th. Also, the second happening of the Oilers Live Cup. We've got the other captain on here, Eric. I know you're going to play this time. I think I'll probably draft you on the good team. We'll see.
Okay.
The good team, by the way, is Team Oilers Live. That's
Mike's a beauty though, too. I don't know if I want to go up against him.
he's a mean bastard. He must have speared me like 4 or 5 times too. It was brutal.
What's an NHL kind of equivalent of Mr. Megathread? Like who's a comparable for him?
Nobody.
Drew Doughty. Maybe. A little Doughty.
Oh, I mean, there's got to be someone who his style is like comparable to for the beer league level.
Yeah, definitely a Doughty type of player. And I should have put 97 on my back the way I flew by him a couple times though. There we go. We're talking April till the next game, and I'm already starting to trash talk. Hey, Eric,
played 2 shifts on D, and he's trash talking me.
I don't think I've ever seen a 6'7" guy move that quick from the sound of it. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's a long stick. So, do you think we came out all right with the trades, Eric?
I mean, their defense is definitely better now than it was, but at the same time, like, how many third pairing guys do we need? Like, you know, I just try to think like Manning signed for next year too, right?
No, I think Manning is this year he's done, and then Petrovic is. Oh no, it's the other way around. Yeah, you're right. Manning's 2.
Yeah,
2 more or 1 more season. Yeah.
When you're trying to think of who your top 6 are going to be next year, you're penciling Bouchard in there. Someone like Jones or Bear might even have a chance. So now you're thinking like, okay, how many guys are we going to have? Are you going to have Manning making $2.5 million sitting in the press box because he can't crack the top 6?
What a problem to have, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Gambardella?
What's it?
What do you think about calling up Gambardella?
I'm excited about that. I remember when the Oilers signed him, I was kind of intrigued. Like, this is a guy coming from, I think he was a Division III school. So I kind of thought, like, there's got to be some upside to, was he UMass or something? I think that's where he was from.
Yeah, actually, you're right.
And I thought, yeah, and I thought, like, you know, there's got to be some upside to this kid that no one else is seeing. And, I mean, right now he's a point-per-game player in the AHL. So if you're ever going to give him a chance, this is the time, especially with Caggiula getting moved today.
Yeah, I guess I'm excited to see him play as well. I mean, it's Are we sure he's slotting in for tomorrow's game?
That I don't know. I mean, Chicago to Edmonton isn't that far of a flight. I mean, it's going to be a super busy travel day, I'm guessing. But all in all, I think it's gonna be a pretty good opportunity for him to get in if he can get here in time.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Eric, I've got one more caller I'm going to take, and then probably going to sign out for the night. Hey, have fun at the game tomorrow. I want to hear your thoughts on what they can do to get the atmosphere better there, besides calling in Saskatchewan fans.
I always have a good time there. But yeah, I think the thing that's going to improve the atmosphere most. I was listening to you guys talk before I came on. It's going to be just winning more games. So we'll hope they trend that way. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks again, Eric. All right, so Mike, that's the guy that he's Eberle-like player on forward. So he's probably going to be playing. I'm going to slot him against you.
Terrific.
On a team. All right, we got one more caller in. We got nope. I got there we go. Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh, hey.
Michael.
Hey, Kevin. So, for those of you, none of you would probably know Kevin because he doesn't partake in the Twitter world. But I've known Kevin for a long time, and he's as far as the podcast go, he's a bit of a celebrity. If you go deep into the archive and you go to the very first episode. I needed a willing lab rat to be my guest, my first guest, and so Kevin was the guy that was the very first guest of Oilers Live. You missed the anniversary episode the other day. What's your thoughts on the trade? Thanks for calling in, by the way. And what's your thoughts on Chiarelli? Would you? You ready
is there
to
swearing
see some
allowed
change?
on here?
You can swear all the fucking. There was one guy complained and called me stupid or lack of intelligence because I had some profanities on here, but I'm sure he's probably gone to bed by now.
So while I was listening to you guys, I came up with the perfect plan. You were talking about Vegas and how good they're doing. I'm thinking Celine Dion for GM.
Hey, you know what? She's got a good history. She's been going for just about ever. She is Canadian, French.
She'll do just as good picking out players as Peter Chiarelli.
Well, yeah, we could do that. So you're on the get rid of Chiarelli bandwagon?
I was never convinced by the guy.
What
when one of his first moves is to get rid of Hall. I don't know.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, lots is made. I was never. I mean, I didn't like that. I think that at the time everybody knew he was trying to move Hall out. The biggest problem I have, and I don't know if you've been listening from the start, is his negotiation ability is, in my mind, is subpar. And so, a guy probably could have negotiated a better deal than Hall, but he was up against it. I think because everybody knew he was going to trade him. So and if you already in advance, I mean, it's not like Chiarelli was new to the league, right? Everybody knew him, right? They probably knew he was a bit of a pushover. And so they know he's going to trade Hall.
Relationships.
Yeah, exactly. And so they knew he was trading Hall, and so I think everybody just sort of opened the books and said, "Well, this is what I'm giving you. Take it or leave it." And the unfortunate is he took and I like. Don't get me wrong, I like Larson, but I think that's probably what it is. Kelly at Beer League Heroes says the Hall Eberle trades were quote unquote organizational decisions. I think that's probably true. And also
that could be.
Oilers fans have a short memory on the Eberle trade because they were all asking for a trade at one point, and then as soon as they traded him, was the end of the world.
I'm being a bit facetious. I'm sure there's always behind the scenes stuff that's going on. And really, I mean, Hall kind of showed his true colors when I think he's still a little bit bitter about the trade.
Oh, absolutely.
And that kind of speaks to his character. So that being said, if we did get rid of him, who do we replace him with? That was my question. Who do we replace? Who's out there?
That's a good question. I've been thinking about that since, of course, since the end of the San Jose game. Interim, I mean, it looks, probably the most likely would be Keith Gretzky as an interim GM. Mike, any ideas who you think would be a welcome candidate?
Well, if you had the budget and knew what to say, knew what to do, the guy I go after is Steve Yzerman all day. But I think he's going to end up in Detroit. That's kind of what my intuition tells me. Other idea maybe is Hitchcock himself, make him coach and GM.
Kelly at
that'd be
Beer
a-
League Heroes says Mike Fuda is the name that's coming out. I'm not 100% familiar with Fuda. Yeah. Okay, I'd have to.
I didn't know Yzerman was in hot water.
He's not. He just stepped back from the GM job in Tampa. So
Did he? I did not know that. Oh, that'd be a coup to get him.
Well, the interesting thing about Yzerman is, he had a. What I liked about him is he doesn't make any moves unless if they really benefit the club, and he really had a develop and a development system going in Tampa Bay that was a lot like what he learned from the best being in Detroit. I wouldn't be surprised if he does go back to Detroit as well, but he certainly he learned from the best. He came over to Tampa Bay. He's put the same system in place with arguably better prospect pool to even work with when he got there. I'm not surprised in the least that he's been as successful as he has, and it's there's no doubt he's probably going back home, or what his hockey home, I guess, would be the best way to put it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that. That's it. Any last words, Kevin?
No. You guys are a couple of smart fellows, and you definitely threw out some good options there. I'm going to leave it up to the smart people to figure that one out.
Well, they're not online tonight, but we'll get them online. We'll figure out. We'll get them to figure it out too. Thanks for calling, and you'll be the first guest and the last guest, I guess, of 2018. So actually, you were
there you go.
the only guest of 2017, I think.
Yes.
Because we did a Boxing Day pod, and then we didn't do one until after. Anyway, thanks for calling in. Have a good night, and of course, I'll be seeing you tomorrow anyway for
Thanks,
New
guys.
Year's Eve. See ya. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
So, Mr. Dirsa, I think that about wraps it up. We, I think that though is a good way to end it. Is who's going to be the next? Let's assume, and I think that it's fair to say Chiarelli's days are numbered with the Oilers organization. I just don't see how the organization itself can keep him on any longer. And I might be wrong, and I hope that I'm not. But this could be a case of Elso not wanting to go to war with an interim GM, right? It's possible that they're in the hunt right now for somebody, and they've got a couple of feelers out there, and they won't pull the trigger until they have somebody in place. I guess the other question is you can throw all the names you want out there, but who wants to get into this mess, right? Who, you need somebody who's got strength of character that they can deal with what comes of this. Because you could come into the mess of a roster that you have right now and not be successful. In 2, 3, 4 years, right? There's that possibility, right? it is a mess right now. But the benefit being and is that there is a good prospect pool out there. We got some guys in the system. We've got some help on defense, hopefully coming soon. Jones has been an eye opener. In my mind, he's been one of the best Oilers defensemen over the last stretch. He's been great. So we've got at the end of the day, though, there will be a change. I don't doubt in my mind anymore. There will be a GM change. Let's leave it at who's coming in, and then maybe we'll know sooner than later. Who knows? I kind of hope that we see something happen. Maybe the trades today, will give some indication. Although I suspect if Chiarelli was immediately on the way out, he might have not been allowed to make those trades today. It's hard to say. So we'll see. I think we're stuck with him for at least a week or 2 weeks. Any last words, Mr. Dirsa?
I guess I'm kind of thinking in my head, when's the next Oilers road trip? Because maybe they'll pull a thing on Chiarelli like they did on McClellan and fly him to California and fire him there.
Kate's might fire him.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting Pandora's box kind of scenario there. Maybe if this happens before the end of the season, it's when does Daryl Cates completely blow his fuse again and say, nope, that's enough, you're out of here.
Yeah.
So maybe he's the guy to actually pull the trigger on that, and not Bob Nicholson.
Yeah, I think at this point, I mean, and then at some point too, the rest of the organization needs to pay for this, right? I mean, we're all on Chiarelli about not not doing his job, but there's a whole other organization that's been in place for a very long time, and I can think of guys were great Oilers, but certainly haven't.
I don't think anybody's head should be safe from the axe here. You have to look at everything, because it's all not working the way it should. From Bob Nicholson on down.
Yeah,
Daryl Cates isn't losing his job. He's the owner. Like, that's ridiculous. Get rid of that notion that some people have. That's that's nonsense. But from there on down, I don't think anybody's safe. It needs to be better. It's not good enough. It's not working. So, where does it go from here? If this losing streak continues, do it now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. All right, on that note, I want to thank everybody for listening. This was probably among all the platforms that I have, online radio, Twitch, Facebook, all of them, YouTube. This was maybe the most watched and listened to live by a long shot. It was not on a game night, but it's at a time that is quite relevant for Oilers fans. Mike, thanks for suggesting to have the pod tonight. I think it was a great idea. Let's hope as we do as fans. Let's hope for an Oilers win tomorrow. Let's hope we see change sooner than later. And have a great night, everybody. Thanks, Mike.
Good night.
And